Parce que les dossiers, il faut qu'elles soient là aussi. Les dossiers très bien. Les dossiers. Oui, c'est ça. Oui, alors qu'à déjà là, au bien santé. Pour qu'elles suivent.
My parents named me costly because I was so precious to them. I was in secondary school when I knew something was wrong with my external genitalia. There was no privacy. All of us students slept in a hostel and we became familiar with each other. I thought my genitalia was created by God to be different from others. While I was in medical school, I saw that women who had been cut often had trouble giving birth. Then I said to myself, why would any parent do this to their daughters? I wasn't aware that I had been subjected to FGM. During my holiday, I visited my mother and asked, could I have been caught? She answered, "Yes, you were." I cried and I was very angry. I wondered, was I really precious to my parents if they let this happen to me? I am one of the 200 million women and girls alive today that have been caught, and I've devoted my life to ensuring that FGM ends in my community and across the globe. I now lead a global network of young people with a common vision of ending female genital mutilation by 2030. My name is costly, and every girl is costly.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us from across the globe. We welcome you all to today's event to commemorate the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. Before we begin, I want to briefly mention that interpretation services are available at this event: French interpretation and sign language interpretation. For those joining via Zoom, please refer to the bottom icon on the bottom of your screen, and the interpretation button, it has a globe icon on there. So choose watch from the list to see your sign language. Feel free to share your location and questions on the chat box. For those joining us on YouTube, we invite you to use the live chat there and tell us who you are and where you're joining from today. This year, we are commemorating the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation under the theme, Investing in Survivor-Led Movements to End Female Genital Mutilation. Please send us your comments throughout the broadcast and join our online campaign, #HerVoiceMatters on social media. The striking video we just watched is a heartfelt survivor story of Dr. Costley's journey. It's not just a personal story, it's a movement in motion. It's about turning scars into strength, whispers into roars, and building a future where a girl should not suffer. Get ready to be inspired today. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Leila Hussein. I'm the current Global Advocacy Director for the program called The Girl Generation, which is the current program on supporting the Africa-led movement on ending FGM. I'm your MC for today, but there's another role I'd like to hold today. I'm also a survivor of female genital mutilation. This is something I've experienced at the age of 7. So I'm truly honored that I've been asked to moderate this conversation that truly fits in with the theme of this year's Zero Tolerance Day. Once again, for those joining us through social media platforms, we invite you to join our online campaign and engage with today's broadcasting using #HerVoiceMatters. One more important thing I need to mention. We are obviously discussing something very difficult. We want to make sure you are safe. So it's important for us to give a bit of a warning. Some of the words, some of the content we'll be using today could be very triggering. Please feel free to step away if you need to. If you need to reach out, please do. So very important that we give you that bit of warning. So we kick off the event with the welcoming remarks from Dr. Wissal Ahmed, the Global Coordinator for the UNFPA UNICEF Joint Program on the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation. Dr. Wissal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leila. Distinguished guests, partners, FGM survivors, activists, and online participants globally, greetings. On the behalf of the UNFPA UNICEF Joint Program on the Elimination of Female Genital Mutilation, I extend a very warm welcome to this high-level event that aims to reaffirm the global position and movement to end FGM by 2030. Today, we bring attention to the 200 million girls and women who have undergone FGM. They are not to be forgotten and assumed to only need care. They are important stakeholders. In countries where FGM is prevalent, daughters of mothers who've undergone FGM are at significantly higher risk to undergo FGM. But FGM survivors are not victims. They are resilient and powerful agents of change, to abandon FGM, as you will see today, as you will witness today. I welcome you to this high-level advocacy star-studded event for 2024 International Day for Zero Tolerance on FGM with the theme, Her Voice, Her Future, investing in survivor-led movements. Let us celebrate FGM survivors' resiliency and activism and call for global and local actions to invest more into this untapped resource. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wissal. I cannot agree more. FGM survivors are not victims. They are resilient and powerful agents of change to end and abandon FGM. Now, let's watch this powerful piece titled Her Voice, Her Future. It takes us on a journey through the devastating realities of FGM while showcasing the inspiring progress and collective action being taken to end this harmful practice. As you can see, ending FGM is far from over. But this video demonstrates the power of collective action. Let's use this knowledge and momentum to ensure every girl has the right to a future free from this very harmful violence. Again, just to remind you, everyone watching on YouTube, we invite you to use the live chat. Tell us who you are and where you're joining us from. Please send us your comments through the broadcast and join online campaign Her Voice Matters on social media. Now, let's move on and start our opening remarks. As we said, today we celebrate the resilience and power of those who have survived it. And we mark the International Day of Zero Tolerance of FGM. Our theme this year puts emphasis on investing in survivor-led movements. Survivor-led movements are fueled by the courage and determinations of individuals who have transformed their pain into purpose. One such individual is our esteemed guest, Dr. Edna Adan. I personally have watched Dr. Edna Adan's career for many, many years, inspired many of us. Over to you, Dr. Edna Adan.
On the occasion of the World FGM Day, the day designated to remind ourselves of the harmful effects of female genital mutilation, I would like to remind the world that we have been trying to eradicate this very harmful practice for many, many years. I had the honor to launch and to pioneer the very first public discussions in Somalia at that time, before Somaliland separated from Somalia, and to speak about the harmful effects, and to speak about the fact that female genital mutilation is not an Islamic requirement, but a traditional practice that is harmful to the health and the well-being of little girls. There are different types. There's the mild sunnah, there's the type 2, type 3, the most severe infibulation that entails the mutilation and the excision of a lot of tissue from the girl. And of course, many come to us with severe complications, retention of urine, bleeding, infections, and a lot of horrible complications that should not have been inflicted to this little child. So it is my very sincere hope that in spite of all the resolutions that have been taken, and because female genital mutilation is still being undertaken, it is my sincere hope that we will combine our efforts to do all that we can to protect little girls from this very harmful practice that is carried out on them, and that also interferes with their future reproductive life when these little girls grow up, get married, get pregnant, and have to bring a child to this world through a passage that has been so damaged. So as a pioneer in the fight against FGM, I hope that this message will be carried forward by future generations, and that we will see the end of this harmful practice before too long.
Thank you. And I'd like to apologize. I forgot to mention that Dr. Edna Adan is the founder of the Edna Adan Maternity Hospital, and currently the president of the Organization for Victims of Torture. Obviously, Dr. Adan, your words carry the weight of experience, the power of truth, and the unwavering hope for a future free from FGM. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us all to join the fight for a world where every girl can reach her full potential. So let's move on with an opening statement from another champion for women's rights. Dr. Natalia Kanem, the Executive Director of UNFPA, the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. Dr. Kanem will tell us why we need to invest in survivor-led movements with an unwavering call for an action, urging us to protect the health and rights of girls. Dr. Kanem, over to you. Thank you.
Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, partners, and friends, it's an honor to join you in marking the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. UNFPA is united with you in our collective commitment. We will end FGM. And we're united in our support for the 200 million FGM survivors worldwide. They bear the mental and physical burden of this harmful practice. Because the burden of addressing FGM should not fall on the shoulders of the women and girls who have experienced it, that responsibility belongs to all of us. It is up to all of us to stop this human rights violation in every community where it persists, and to help survivors heal and take control of their lives. Our mission could not be more urgent. This year alone, nearly 4.4 million girls are at risk of undergoing FGM, far from our global target of zero by the year 2030. This is a wake-up call to accelerate our efforts. And how do we do that? By investing in survivor-led movements. Survivors understand the obstacles to eliminating FGM. They are leading the way to overcome those obstacles. One family, one community, one person at a time. Hawa from Djibouti is one of these people who said, "I want to protect my sisters friends, and all women. I want us to raise our voices together so that none of our sisters will suffer. For UNFPA, we are steadfast in our commitment to centering the voices of FGM survivors. They are invaluable partners of the Global Joint Program we co-lead with UNICEF. And since its inception in 2008, the program has supported over 11,000 organizations. Many of them are grassroots and survivor-led. Of course, much more work will need to be done to address the scale of the problem. By the time we all go to sleep tonight, 12,000 more girls will have undergone FGM. So today, I ask everyone to think about what you can personally do to help turn the tide, to help make FGM history. And as we go forward, let us be inspired by the resilience and the courage and the determination of survivors, like Hawa, who also said, "My suffering became my strength, and my strength is the strength of all women." Let our movement to end FGM gain strength from the indomitable spirit of survivors, and let us join them in becoming fearless champions of change.
Thank you, Dr. Kanem. Yes, women and girls deserve an equal future with infinite possibilities free from FGM. And to those who are online, please ensure that if you need to leave any comments, if you go to the Q&A box in the Zoom call, so please leave your comments and questions in that box. Thank you so much. Now, moving to another champion from a sister UN agency. Ms. Catherine Russell, Executive Director, UNICEF, will speak to the importance of partnership investment into survivor-led movements to accelerate efforts to end FGM. Over to you, Catherine Russell.
On this International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, UNICEF is calling on the global community to continue to strengthen the commitment to ending this harmful practice. Estimates show that over 200 million girls and women alive today have undergone FGM. The situation demands urgent action, and we can all play a part. The private sector, for example, can play an important role by increasing investments for survivor-led movements, especially movements of young people. Survivors of FGM play an especially powerful role in eliminating the practice. Survivors know their communities well. They bring authenticity, the ability to dispel myths and misconceptions, and they are powerful advocates to empower lives, including through education. Lasting change is more likely when initiated and championed by the communities themselves, and with effective advocacy, policy changes, and legal frameworks that protect girls from FGM. Survivor-led movements also create a global network of solidarity, uniting individuals and organizations committed to ending FGM. Working together and focusing our collective efforts on investing in FGM survivor-led movements can go a long way to help eliminate female genital mutilation once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine, for highlighting that everyone has a role to end this practice and that FGM survivors' lived experience can transform them into powerful advocates and own initiatives to make a change. Our next speaker, Dr. Tedros, apologies, people, I'm going to be saying people's names the wrong way, so I'd like to apologize in advance. So Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who is the director of WHO, will be sharing his words. Over to you, Dr. Tedros.
Dear colleagues and friends, thank you for joining us today. WHO is committed to helping countries build capacity to provide healthcare and support the survivors of female genital mutilation and work with communities to prevent it. An estimated 200 million women and girls have undergone female genital mutilation. 4 million girls are at risk of this harmful practice each year. It harms the health and well-being of women and girls. It is a violation of their human rights. WHO supports countries in training health workers to treat the complications of female genital mutilation in primary care settings. Health workers also have an important role to play in community outreach and in communicating with women and families during routine care to prevent FGM. In fact, health workers in countries where this practice occurs may be survivors themselves. They know the trauma and pain it causes. Many have turned that pain into advocacy and are speaking out against female genital mutilation. Today, on the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, we stand with survivors to hear their voices, to ensure they have the care that they need, and to support their efforts to stop FGM. I thank you.
Thank you to Dr. Tedros, who clearly points out the significant role of health workers who may be FGM survivors themselves in preventing FGM and caring for other FGM survivors. We end the opening remarks from the UN leadership with powerful poem by Justina Kahinde. Let us hear what she has to say. Over to you, Justina.
Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on, she said, as she slipped the soles of her feet from tired bones, bound them in blue ribbon, and offered them as something old, something owed. These feet, calloused and creased, were borrowed from her father's family tree, see. She had been carrying her ancestors before she could even articulate her own identity. This body, this parcel of past generations that creaked under the weight of traditions and customs, began its final journey with a question: what are we willing to leave? She had already left behind her mouth, complete with instructions explaining how it should laugh where it once wept and sing where it once screamed, yet also scream and speak and breathe if we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Then she loved the way her mouth smiled wider since it had been inherited by her niece. She left the dance in her right hip to a nephew, unclasped her spine, that column of courage that had neither wavered nor withered. She knew they would need her backbone in 2 generations' time. And eyes that had seen so much, tilted heavenwards towards that never-ending sky, knowing that there were some things she would not leave behind. She took the silence with her, that uninvited guest, to the parts of her culture that cut bodies until they ended up being less. She took the rites of passage that violated her rights, denounced the idea that goodness is found in clothes that are loose and bodies that are tight. She took the culture of blame that had exonerated generations of men from the violence they had wreaked on the bodies, the minds, and the souls of everyone less powerful than them. She took the low expectations, too narrow to give birth to something as wild and wonderful as a full and autonomous human. She took all her misery, gathered every yes when she wanted to say no that slipped out of her body, unearthed every twisted conception of love that had dug itself into the soil of her soul, for she had eaten from that tree of knowledge and knew that if she left those blighted seeds behind, they would only fester and grow. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on, she said, clasping the scars in her right hand and the pain in her left. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on if the past is filled with death and destruction. In the end, the things that survive are the things we leave behind. It's true what they say. Only death presides when we fail to protect the dignity of life. Not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on. We gain more than we lose when we choose to move on.
Wow. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you've ever been to any poetry events, but it's important that we do this when we hear such powerful poem. Thank you. Thank you, Justina. Indeed, we gain more than we lose when we choose to move on and away from all the harmful norms that endanger women and girls' bodily integrity. Whew. Very powerful words indeed. And I mean, Justina, thank you, a strong feminist voice and an activist. I really, truly enjoy when we can create such spaces and we even bring creativity into this space. So I thank you for bringing Justina's voice in this space. Okay, right. We move on to an influential human rights and anti-FGM champion, who happens to be one of my sheroes, actually. Anna Kabele from Kenya. We met years ago, actually, I remember, but we somehow stayed in touch through other connections. I'm really happy to see you here, Kabele. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Leila. Good to connect over here again.
Yes.
My name is Anna Kabale Duba. I am a nurse and epidemiologist by profession. I am a mother of two, and expecting that because I'm a pastoralist girl. I'm so happy to be here today to share the day. As the world celebrates the International Day of Zero Tolerance for the FGM 2024, I would like to give thanks to UNFPA and other partners who have made this possible. The theme for this year is investing in survivor-led movement to end FGM as a survivor, not a victim. I would like to say proudly that, yes, my voice matters. As a girl, coming from a pastoralist community and coming from a community where girl child education was not valued, I was lucky to be able to go to school. Out of my father's 19 children, the only girl who was taken to school. And actually, I was the first female graduate from my small village. So I decided to go back and be the voice of change for my people and for the other girls and women who deserve their voice to be heard. For sure, the theme for this year is really interesting, and it's actually the right path. Investing in survival-led movement to end FGM is crucial and effective approach in combating this harmful practice. Survival-led movement empowers women and girls who have experienced the FGM to become advocates and leaders in the fight against it. These are the people who give you the real story in real life, the real life experiences. Here are several reasons why investing in the survival-led movement is very important. Authentic voice. Survivors of FGM have first-hand experience of the physical, emotional, and psychological consequences of the practice. Their voices carry authenticity and credibility, making them powerful advocates for change. They can speak directly to the realities of FGM and its impacts on individuals and communities because they have experienced it from the time they were cut, and for the mothers, by the time they're going through labor, and actually the psychological effect to it. Another reason is community trust and engagement. Survivors are often deeply embedded with their communities and they possess cultural knowledge and sensitivity. We come from this community who practice the cut. They can engage with communities in ways that outsiders may not be able to. You know, this is a cultural practice. So our people know that they don't have much reasons to say, but they can say that it's our culture. And they boldly say that. But as a survivor from the same community, born and brought up in the same community, they have the trust of the community. When we go back and tell these people, they are that this culture, it's good to have our cultures, but it's high time we get rid of a harmful cultural practice. We are the catalyst for change. Survivor-led movements can catalyze a broader social change by raising awareness, influencing also public opinion, and mobilizing communities to take action against FGM. Survivors' stories have the power to inspire empathy and solidarity. Also, for the policy advocacy, for the survivors can advocate for policy changes at all levels, local, national, and also international. It's high time I say again, we go back home and empower the rest. If we learned know about the policy and even about these effects of the FGM, we, the survivors, are the ones to go back and pass the message to our people. Support for the survivors is very important. UNFPA and other partners are doing it, and we hope that for us to achieve the zero tolerance we are talking about actually, to be reality by 2030, we need to support this survivor-led movement. Capacity building. Supporting survivor-led organizations and networks strengthens their capacity to lead initiatives, conduct advocacy, and also directly helping the victims or the survivors. Most of the women, like the girls in the pastoral communities where I come from, they go under FGM at very early age. I underwent the cut when I was 12 years old and narrowly escaped early forced marriage at the age of 14. So many girls who are not lucky enough go through very, very hard time during labor, and others even get fistula. So it's high time we capacity build these victims and help them directly. Intersectional approach is also another approach that will help us end the FGM through the survivor-led movement with other form of gender-based violence, because it's one thing that leads to the other. The first thing is FGM. Then once you undergo the FGM, it's believed that you are now ready to be married, and then you get married at a very young age. So multi-sectoral approach can be used generally. Investing in survivor-led movement is not only a moral imperative, but also strategic approach in global effort to end FGM. Thank you so much.
Oh, Anna, I think I can speak for myself, maybe for the rest, but really powerful words. And I've been following you for many years. So thank you. I think what you're reminding us is working with grassroots organization, how important that is. And for the last 4 years, UNFPA, UNICEF supported over 11,000 organizations, and 83% being grassroots organizations, coalitions, and survivor-led movements. But to meet the global goal of 0 cases of female genital mutilation by 2030, I think it's very clear we need a collective investment and partnership. I think that's really clear. So we will now listen to government commitments, because we can share all these ideas and but we absolutely having commitments from the government is very critical to this work. To ensure that this is a very, this is a smooth and engaging experience for us all, I would kindly request speakers to adhere to the allocated speaking time. So now let's welcome our first speaker, Her Excellency Nandi Som Diallo, the Minister of Solidarity, Humanitarian Action, National Reconciliation, Gender and Family from Burkina Faso. But just a quick reminder, for French interpretation services available throughout this event for your convenience by selecting the French audio on your menu. Over to you. Over to you, Madame Diallo.
Okay. Distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Avant tout propos, je voudrais féliciter Madame la directrice exécutive du Fonds des Nations Unies pour la population, le Dr Natalia Kanem, et l'ensemble des organisateurs de cet événement de haut niveau. J'adresse également mes vives félicitations aux panélistes pour leur disponibilité soutenue dans la lutte contre cette pratique néfaste pour les jeunes filles et les femmes. Alors, chers panélistes, depuis plusieurs décennies, nos États respectifs et la communauté internationale déploient d'énormes efforts pour accélérer l'élimination des mutilations génitales féminines qui portent atteinte aux droits fondamentaux de millions de femmes et de jeunes filles à travers le monde. Ces efforts nous ont permis d'engager des acquis et à titre illustratif, et nous pouvons noter avec satisfaction quelques acquis, et notamment la tendance à la hausse des déclarations publiques d'abandon des MJF par un nombre croissant de communautés, l'intégration de modules sur les MJF dans les curricula d'enseignement du primaire, du secondaire et dans les écoles professionnelles de santé, et le rôle de plus en plus actif des leaders coutumiers et religieux dans la lutte contre les attitudes négatives et les normes sociales qui perpétuent la pratique de l'excision, et également la création des numéros verts pour les dénonciations anonymes des tentatives ou cas de pratique du MJF. Tous ces efforts conjugués ont entraîné une baisse significative de la prévalence des MJF dans notre pays. Ainsi, la prévalence de l'excision parmi les femmes dont l'âge est compris entre 15 et 49 ans est passée de 76% en 2010 à 56% en 2021. Et pour les filles de 0 à 14 ans, nous sommes passés d'une prévalence de 13% en 2010 à 9% en 2020, selon l'enquête démographique et de santé numéro 4 et numéro 5. Alors, distingués invités, malgré ces avancées encourageantes, il est important de souligner que plusieurs femmes et jeunes filles de moins de 15 ans risquent d'être soumises à cette pratique préjudiciable et irréversible d'ici 2030 si nous n'agissons pas forcément maintenant et ensemble. En effet, le contexte mondial actuel, marqué par de multiples crises sécuritaires et humanitaires, entraîne la stagnation, voire la diminution des engagements financiers en faveur de la lutte qui se maintient. C'est pourquoi je lance un appel à l'ensemble des acteurs, États, partenaires techniques et financiers, à mobiliser davantage les ressources financières nécessaires pour la prévention et l'élimination des MJF. Alors, le thème retenu cette année, je cite, sa voix, son avenir, investir dans les mouvements dirigés par les survivantes pour mettre fin aux mutilations génitales féminines est plus qu'interpellateur. En effet, il nous invite à innover dans nos stratégies. Et qui mieux pour travailler au changement des normes sociales préjudiciables que les victimes de ces normes. Alors, le Burkina avait déjà amorcé cette dynamique à travers l'implication des survivantes dans les actions de sensibilisation des populations au niveau communautaire, d'une part, et d'autre part, à travers leur prise en charge holistique et leur autonomisation par des formations en activités génératrices de revenus. Et je reste convaincue que la mise à l'échelle réussie de cette stratégie renforcera les acquis des autres stratégies pour une accélération de l'atteinte de l'objectif de développement durable 5.3. Chers panélistes, distingués invités, permettez-moi de renouveler mes remerciements à l'ensemble des partenaires techniques et financiers, surtout l'UNFPA et le Fonds des Nations Unies pour l'enfance, qui, à travers le programme conjoint pour l'accélération de l'élimination des MJF, contribue fortement à éradiquer les MJF au Burkina Faso. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and the continued investment and commitment from Burkina Faso to end FGM by 2030. There is an army of partners who generously fund UNFPA and UNICEF joint program on the elimination of FGM. These include the governments of Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Spain, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and United States of America, and the European Union. Now allow me to introduce you to one of the joint program donor partners, the United States of America. I would like to invite Her Excellency Rao Gupta, Ambassador for the Secretary's Office of the Global Women's Issues at the US Department of State.
Thank you so much, Leila. Thank you also to the powerful speakers who spoke before me. And thank you in particular to UNFPA and UNICEF for co-hosting this event and for your joint work to eliminate gender-based violence globally, including FGMC. The United States was proud to be a donor to the joint program in 2023 and a partner since 2017 in these efforts. As the US Ambassador for Global Women's Issues, it is my role to represent the US government's foreign policy objectives on gender equity and equality and to support the rights and empowerment of women and girls worldwide. This actually has been a long-standing priority of mine throughout my career, so I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to lead the Secretary's Office of Global Women's Issues here at the Department of State to ensure that girls and young women are able to pursue education, access opportunities, and live free from violence and discrimination. FGMC stands in the way of girls' pursuit of these opportunities and the fulfillment of their rights. One recent study showed that FGM was a leading cause of death for women and girls in African countries, with over 44,000 women and girls dying each year because of the practice. No matter the type or motivation for performing it, FGMC is a human rights abuse and a form of gender-based violence. In December, the US government launched an update to the US strategy to prevent and respond to gender-based violence globally. Notably, this update places a strong emphasis on addressing the unique needs and vulnerabilities of girls and young women to GBV and the importance of collective action, working with girls and their communities to shift norms and to create lasting change. Because this issue has no borders, the US also recognizes the importance of ending FGMC domestically here in the US. In addition to the US federal law criminalizing the performance of FGMC on girls, which has been in place since 1996, the Stop FGM Act of 2021 expanded the scope of those who can be prosecuted under the law and doubled the maximum penalty. 41 states in the US also have their own laws criminalizing FGMC. While policy and legislative frameworks are obviously necessary to accelerating progress and creating this change, we know that FGMC is rooted in long-standing traditional and cultural norms. But it's important to remember that culture is not immutable. We have evidence that norms can and do change over time. In the last 2 decades, the proportion of girls and women in high prevalence countries who want the practice to stop has doubled. In other words, the women and girls who undergo FGMC want it to stop and are increasingly vocalizing that, as we heard from many today. And the areas where FGMC is most concentrated are in fact shrinking, though we still have a long road ahead. On this journey to end FGMC, girls' voices and leadership must be central and elevated. Grandparents, parents, teachers, religious leaders, and other community members also have critical roles to play in creating an environment where girls are safe and empowered. UNICEF and UNFPA, as joint leaders of the joint program, understand this, and they work closely with local organizations that can address these deep-rooted social norms. All of this is quite easy to say, and it's all backed by evidence, but nothing is as powerful as seeing this work in action. I was so privileged as part of my first trip overseas as ambassador at large to visit a joint program site in Kenya. The community we visited, a few hours outside of Nairobi, has faced many challenges in recent years, including the long drought that has devastated the area, as well as the lasting impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. These compounded crises increase economic insecurity and consequently increase the risks of FGMC and child early and forced marriage. On the road to the site, we saw dead cattle, dead grass, and very few people. And yet, as soon as we arrived, it was clear that this program, the joint program, was bringing the community to life. With support from the local partner, Ilara Mahatak, Community Concerns, and the leadership of Agnes Lina, today, reformed cutters are working within their community to reverse trends of practicing FGMC. I met with former cutters and young mothers who now support their families through selling beadwork and by working as tailors. So instead of cutting their daughters, they are sewing school uniforms and ensuring that their daughters continue their education. The women I met told me that due to their leadership, the movement to end FGMC had spread from their community and, in their words, as far as the mountains in the distance. I'm no longer spilling the blood of children, one grandmother and former chief cutter told me. Instead, she's going from home to home, advocating to end the practice and supporting others in finding ways to raise the age of marriage and pregnancy, to continue girls' education, and increase the opportunity for earning livelihoods in a community that has been agrarian to date. This work went beyond this community. The government officials I met proudly highlighted the country's falling rates of FGMC and emphasized the importance of the joint program and the work of local communities in this significant accomplishment. I left Kenya, I have to say, grateful and inspired by the momentum of change that happens when communities are brought in and begin moving the needle themselves, whether that be advocating to local officials to draft and pass laws, eliminating the practice, or supporting programs aimed to educate and provide alternatives at a community level. So as we work collectively to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, it's imperative to note that without significant and accelerated action, the world will not achieve the outcome of FGMC elimination that we strive for. And in fact, SDG 5 is among the furthest behind, which should serve as a warning call for us. UNICEF has predicted that progress must take place in at least 10 times faster to meet the global target of eliminating the practice of FGMC by 2030. This means we must work 10 times harder to forge new partnerships, to secure additional resources, and to build the capacity of local organizations, groups, and networks. Today's convening of like-minded governments, donors, and partners in commemoration of this Zero Tolerance Day is important, but there's much more work we need to do together to see the true elimination of FGMC. The United States is committed to working with our partners, survivors, locally led women's organizations, and youth-led groups and networks, and all of you who are present here today, towards ending all forms of GBV and uplifting the priorities and voices of girls and young women around the world. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much for being here, and your really powerful words. Really, truly grateful to hear from the US. So just like the US, Sweden is one of the major donors to the joint program, committed to end FGM and empowering girls and communities worldwide. Let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Elizabeth Harleman, Head of the Regional Development Corporation of the Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights in Africa, Embassy of Sweden based in Pretoria. The floor's over to you, Elizabeth. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the powerful speeches. I'm really honored to be part of this high-level event today. Too many girls are subject to harmful practices such as child marriage and FGM. Regrettably, we're not on track to achieve the SDGs target 5.3 to eliminate harmful practices, and 68 million girls are at risk of being subject to FGM up to 2030. Ending FGM will require efforts and engagement at all levels by multiple actors and within many sectors. It is about having legal environment that prohibits these practices. It is about poverty and families not being able to feed enough children. And it is about traditions, norms, and values that favor such practices. Although figures may seem dire, it is important to remind ourselves about progress that has been made and that change is possible. In the last two decades, FGM prevalence rates have dropped by a quarter, and the proportion of girls and women in high prevalence countries who oppose the practice has doubled. However, in some countries, FGM remains near universal or is as common today as it was even 30 years ago. For the global community to meet SDG target 5.3 by 2030, progress will need to be at least 10 times faster than it has been over the past 15 years. This was also shown in the video earlier today and also noted by Ambassador Gupta. The evidence is there. We know that we know what needs to be done to stop FGM, but progress is too slow. FGM is a violation of girls' and women's human rights, and it is critical to address the underlying causes, such as deeply rooted unequal gender and social norms, and ultimately the power relations between men and women. We know that education plays an important role in keeping girls and young women safe. The longer a girl stays in school, the less likely she is to be married before the age of 18 and have children during her teenage years. We also know that survivor-led programming is key to ending FGM by empowering girls and women, amplifying their voice, and nurturing their agency. When survivors are at the center of our efforts, we foster a generation of empowered change makers who will drive the momentum to eradicate FGM and create a future where every girl can thrive free from harm. Listening to the previous speakers, such as Leila yourself and Dr. Edna Adan and Anna Kabale-Duba, makes me even more convinced that this is the way forward. For Sweden, women's and girls' bodily autonomy, including the elimination of harmful practices, is a top priority for Sweden. And Sweden is a proud partner to the joint program on elimination of FGM since 2018, with a total contribution of $56 million. By partnering with UNFPA and UNICEF, Sweden supports the creation of lasting impacts, overturning harmful norms and paving the way for a future when women and girls can live free from female genital mutilation. Let us all take on the responsibility to make sure that we put an end to FGM. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth Harleman, for your alliance to support the elimination of FGM. We are equally delighted to have these commitments from the Swedish government. Thank you so much. So, FGM survivor stories and resilience are endless. I would like us to watch this video called Unsilenced FGM.
I can't remember how old I was, but I was a child. They will tie your face because they don't want for you to see the person who's doing the practice on you, to undress you. They cutting, they use whole knife. I got sick, I bleed. My experience of this cutting, it didn't go well with me. When you go to the Sunday bridge, you suffer a lot. My sister, you suffer. My mom, she was the one that carried us there. They say it's their tradition. You don't wear clothes there, you just walk with your bare feet. The FGM mark alone, it can hurt. To even have sex with men, who can feel hurt when giving birth to a child for now FGM. The child I have now, she won't go and say no. Never allow your child to go do this practice of FGM. We as FGM victims, we want adult illiteracy school, because when you educate one woman, you educate whole nation.
Whew. Deep breaths. You know, I am also a psychotherapist, so I'm very mindful how, you know, powerful these stories are, these experiences are. So please, please take care of yourself while you're with us today. Make sure you're okay. It's important that we do check in on each other. That was a very powerful. And again, the film really reminds us how urgent this is, an emergency that we need to be dealing with. Girls are at risk on a daily basis. As you can see from the facts and the numbers, how much danger girls are in. So thank you for the reminder through this video. And also, today is 6th of February, but I think it's very clear for a lot of us on this call who are joining this webinar today, this is an everyday work for us. So let's not forget that. So getting to our next, apologies. My screen has just disappeared. All right, I'm back. Yes. So just to remind everybody, don't forget to tell us what you think. Please go to the Q&A box by using the hashtag #HerVoiceMatters. You will see a lower key bar, like at the bottom it says Q&A. So please share your thoughts with us in that box. So today, as we stand united on the International Day of Zero Tolerance of female genital mutilation, we celebrate the voices of young champions who are leading the fight for change. These young individuals, empowered by their own experiences and fueled by a deep desire for a better future, are paving the way for a world free from FGM. From the Gambia, we have the honor of welcoming Ms. Adama Akinta Suso. Apologies today for those who are messing up your names. Adama is not only an inspiring advocate, but also she's our youngest speaker today at our event. Despite her age, she carries a very powerful message shaped by her own personal story and a unwavering commitment on ending FGM in her home country. Adama, over to you.
Hello. Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you, Adama.
All right. I am Adama Akinta Suso from the Gambia. I'm struggling with network.
Oh.
Please
Adama,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Adama. I think she's struggling with her network.
Hey. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Adama. Please go ahead.
Can you turn off your video and just speak audio? It's okay.
Yep.
Go ahead,
Do that, yeah.
All
Adama.
right. Thank you. So, like I said, I am a survivor of FGM and also an advocate because I learned from my story. So I was 9 years old when I was taken to the Ngansimba. That is what we call the people that cut you. And so I remember 9 years, I could remember vividly everything that happened to me. And I had to go because my grandma, she told me that we were going to the market. She didn't tell me that we were going to and I feel because I feel like I was a very curious child when I was a child. So that was why it was easy for my grandma to deceive me. I was like, I always want to go to the market. That's why I love cooking anyways. So she's like, okay, let's go to the market. And then, unfortunately for me, it ended up at the Gansimba. That is the people that cut you. I remember men coming to hold me down and holding my hands. And they're like, you have to stay still. Because if you don't stay still, you might hurt yourself. Because that was so obviously, as a child, I'm going to be so scared. And I remember lying still and shouting and crying my eyes out. So I'm a twin, and they took the both of us sitting and sitting back together. So I remember looking on my left side and seeing my twin sister lying down, and we were shouting together. It was one of the most horrendous activity ever performed on me, and I think for the rest of my life, I'd always remember it because until today, if I think about what happened, it always gives me chills, always. And then I remember coming out of that room, and the women around me were like, "You're a woman now. You should not do this. You shouldn't do that. You should not be close to men," and all of that. And at that time, I didn't think it was bad. I just felt hot that they took some from me that didn't ask permission, but I didn't know what the FGM was until when I started junior school and then started learning about sexual education, and then I really figured out that that was really wrong and it shouldn't have happened. But and I made sure that as I grew on, I decided that it was not going to happen again. Not to my friends, not to my siblings, not to my age mates, not to anyone I know, and most especially not to my kids. And from that day onwards, I keep on telling my mom all the time, if I ever see you helping anyone taking their children to get them circumcised, you're going to be following me to the police station. And I feel like because of that, I've made it clear to everyone at home, my friends, everyone that knows me, and nobody ever tells me about that anymore because I make it my purpose because I know what I went through. First of all, that are so horrific, and then finally figuring out that it's because of FGM that could have a normal cycle. I used to be really scared, especially when they said that if you don't see your menstruation, you are pregnant. And sometimes it was like 4 months and I didn't see her. I feel like, oh shit, no, I'm so sure I don't have a boyfriend. I'm so sure I'm not pregnant. So what's happening? And then I finally went to the gynecologist and it was confirmed it had something to do with infections during FGM. I don't know. My friends, so every time I went to the gynecologist, my friends will come with me. And the day that we did the final test, and then the doctors told me, I remember breaking down. Like at this age, I'm like, what the heck? Like I don't deserve this, and I don't think anybody else deserves it. No, to go through that pain, especially for the first time, and then you want to ease yourself. So I remember the first time when we went to the back home, and I wanted to ease myself because I was really depressed. And I remember going to the bathroom, and I shouted and cried because it was so painful. And then I told my mom wasn't around at that time. And then she's like, don't worry, after that was the first pain. It will never hurt again. It's over. You're not going to feel it again. And then it continued happening. So for other people, it was just that once. But for me, it was not. I had reminisced that part of life over and over again because it kept on happening. And it made me more vulnerable to infections. I am like, until now, I keep on saying I'm so tired of feeling infections because it's from one to another. And I think it's because I'm so vulnerable to infections and diseases. And now I'm struggling with that. So like I've always said and will always say, no human being has the right to take something from somebody without your permission. And most especially not cut a part of my body that I wouldn't want cut because it's not infected, it's not sick. Why are you cutting it off? Like it's none of your business. So nobody has the right to cut a female child. Nobody has the right to take you through FGMC, whatever it's called. If it's called cutting, if it's mutilation, don't cut me. And I hear people saying most of the times that religious leaders say that FGM is good. I'm a firm believer of my faith. I'm a Muslim, a fully fortified one, and I'd probably say that anywhere. And even the imams and sheikhs will say that that is not a strong sunnah that should be practiced. And when God created us, He didn't bring us to suffer. So if there's something that is making us suffer, then God didn't ask us to do that. So why are you hurting somebody if they say they don't want it and it's hurting them? Why should you do it? That's always been my question. And that is a question that even if there are so many answers, people keep on doing FGM, people still keep on practicing it. But I do know one thing for sure, that if we keep on speaking, and because it is survival-led movements, and now they're not reading it from social media or from Google, they're hearing people that went through the pain, people that have seen the pain firsthand, speak about it. I feel like now people will start to listen because I've seen people start to listen. When I went home, I told my grandma, what you did to me still affects me today, and it might affect me when I get married. I'm so scared sometimes that I was sealed, and then when I go to my husband's house, they'll have to reopen me, and I'll have to go through that pain again. So yeah, no girl child deserves that.
Yeah.
And forever till ever.
Sorry, Adama. I apologies, Adama, because I know we're going over time, and I really want to emphasize on the importance of what you just shared, because I think what you're sharing is very critical to everything we are saying today. One, it's, supporting survivors, they're having the power to say no. So how powerful your words.
Yes,
So I want to thank you and for being brave to coming here today and really sharing. And your story resonates with mine. My sister and I and my cousin were also mutilated all together. And only those who've been through this will understand.
Wow.
So I want to thank you for sharing that. And I really
yes, definitely. Yes.
Absolutely. And we need more healing.
you.
That's what you're reminding me. Thank you so much for joining us on this session.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adama. I mean, clearly, Adama's, to everyone who's joining us, you can clearly see the power survivors have and the insight they give all of us. So now I want to introduce a key partner of the joint program Eliminating Female Genital Mutilation, the Government of Canada. Allow me to invite Mr. Peter McDougall, Assistant Deputy Minister for the Global Issues and Development, Global Affairs Canada. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Leila. Thank you to the previous speakers. And let me really salute the courage and power of the survivors that we heard today and the survivors that are working and advocating every day around the world. Today, on the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, it's an honor for Canada to join global efforts calling for an end to this harmful practice. Our theme this year, Her Voice, Her Future, investing in survivor-led movements to end female genital mutilation, reminds us not only that we must continue to invest in ending this harmful practice, but also the importance of prioritizing support to women and girl survivors, their organizations and movements. Because when we support movements, we support women and girls' meaningful participation in decisions that affect their bodies and their lives. They thrive as a result, and we multiply the impact of our investments. We know that gender-based violence and the denial of women and girls' bodily autonomy, including through the practice of FGM, are major barriers to gender equality and their empowerment. We need to listen to affected communities, to women and girl leaders and survivors, and to support their efforts for change. I will now say a few words in French. Les témoignages et les messages inspirants que nous avons entendus aujourd'hui, comme celui d'Adama, donnent tout leur sens à notre action collective. Ils confirment la nécessité d'accroître nos investissements dans la prévention et la lutte contre les mutilations génitales féminines. Ils confirment aussi le besoin de soutenir le travail accompli pour modifier les normes sociales et les relations de pouvoir qui favorisent les pratiques néfastes envers les filles et les femmes. Finalement, ces témoignages démontrent l'importance du leadership et de la responsabilité du gouvernement et des intervenants à tous les niveaux. Through its Feminist International Assistance Policy, Canada is contributing to these efforts. We recognize the central role that gender equality and the elimination of all forms of sexual and gender-based violence play in achieving the SDGs. We have taken concrete actions to increase funding for programming to address harmful practices such as FGM. As part of our commitment to global health and rights, we invest $700 million annually to advance sexual and reproductive health and rights, including addressing sexual and gender-based violence. This funding includes support to diverse partners, including women's rights organizations, who are at the forefront of advocacy and action against sexual and gender-based violence, from the grassroots to the national and global levels. Canada is committed to continuing its work with UN agencies and other states, and its support to civil society organizations that address FGM and cutting. We are proud to support the UNFPA UNICEF joint program on the elimination of FGM, and we believe this global initiative is key to protecting girls at risk and ensuring that future generations can lead fulfilling lives free from harm. Eliminating FGM benefits everyone, let's keep working together to end this practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McDougall, and for really resharing the commitment from Canada. We really, truly appreciate this. Now, another valued donor partner with us today is Dr. Babel Kofler, Parliamentary State Secretary to the Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development. Please let's watch their message.
Your Excellency, Madam Deputy Secretary General, Excellencies, Executive Directors, ladies and gentlemen. My message is zero tolerance for female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation is inhuman violence against women and girls, and it is happening all over the world. There are at least 200 million girls and women worldwide who have experienced this kind of violence. Germany, too, is home to about 67,000 women who have undergone female genital mutilation. About 1 in 10 women and girls dies during the procedure. Many more die from its long-term consequences. That is intolerable. Ending gender-based violence in this and other forms, once and for all, is an integral part of Germany's development policy. Together with our partners, we want to strengthen the rights, resources, and representation of women and girls. It is important to put the focus on the voices of survivors, to let them tell their stories, rather than talk about them. Surviving women and girls need prospects for the future without stigmatization and exclusion. It will take patience and perseverance to end female genital mutilation, but change is possible. This is evident from the progress made in our joint projects with partners such as UNFPA and UNICEF. For instance, it was also thanks to our program that in 2022, 500 religious and community leaders publicly condemned this harmful practice. Experience shows that there is a need for exchange with local communities, a need for continuous dialogue among all generations, and most importantly, a need for close cooperation with surviving women and girls. Thank you very much for your committed work.
Thank you so much for those powerful words, for this wonderful speech. And it's indeed more important to let survivors talk about it than to talk to them. You know, it's important that we talk to survivors, not talk at them. I think we need to keep remembering that. So now moving on to another committed government, which is determined to end FGM by 2030, I would like to invite Madame Zainab Ismail, advisor to the mission of the Republic of Djibouti and to the United Nations. Welcome, Zainab.
Merci, Madame Leila, notre modératrice. C'est un honneur pour moi de prendre part à cette plateforme de discussion très intéressante. Je suis émue. Après avoir entendu tout ce qu'on a vu, toutes ces expériences, je prends part donc au nom de ma mission, de la mission de Djibouti à New York. C'est pour commémorer ensemble avec vous cette journée internationale de tolérance zéro pour une mutilation génitale féminine. Permettez-moi d'abord de féliciter les organisateurs de cette réunion de haut niveau qui va permettre d'attirer l'attention sur cette pratique inacceptable que subissent beaucoup de jeunes filles au XXIe siècle à cause de certaines personnes attachées aux valeurs culturelles, on ne peut pas dire des valeurs, attachées à des coutumes ancestrales néfastes. D'abord, il est important de comprendre que la décision sur la mutilation génitale à Djibouti a toujours été une affaire des femmes. C'est les femmes qui prennent ces décisions majoritairement, qui ont pris ces décisions majoritairement malheureusement, et qu'il s'agit d'une tradition ancestrale qui n'a aucune base religieuse. Aussi, il serait important de rappeler que Djibouti, le gouvernement de Djibouti, accorde une importance particulière à la question du MGF et n'épargne aucun effort pour combattre ce phénomène à tous les niveaux sociaux. Avec l'appui fort apprécié du FUNIAP, de l'UNICEF, de l'OMS, si j'en peux citer, et ainsi que d'autres partenaires, Djibouti a adopté une stratégie inclusive et ouverte à toutes les parties prenantes, comme les religieux, la société civile, le secteur privé, le secteur public concerné, les ONG des femmes djiboutiennes pour les plaidoyer pour un abandon total du MGF. Selon les évaluations de 2022, une tendance à la baisse a été relevée. Mais nous avons encore des défis à relever. Parmi les actions menées concrètement, on peut citer l'organisation des ateliers de sensibilisation, le renforcement des capacités pour mettre en place un dispositif institutionnel et la mise en place des cellules d'écoute partout aux victimes afin de les encourager et l'élaboration d'un texte juridique pour condamner ces actes et protéger les jeunes filles de la mutilation génitale. Élargir les programmes de sensibilisation auprès des familles vivant dans des zones très éloignées sur un abandon total du MGF est un défi, est un grand défi majeur dans l'avenir. Les programmes de sensibilisation qui ont été menés, dans lesquels j'ai participé personnellement, m'ont aidé à épargner ma fille, je partage avec vous ici, de cette mutilation génitale, ainsi que d'autres filles de la famille. Et donc, c'est pourquoi j'encourage de continuer à financer et à combattre, à financer ces programmes de système onusien en présent dans notre territoire et d'un partout, afin d'atteindre l'objectif de 0 femmes ou filles mutilées. J'encourage et je soutiens cette cause. Merci.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for those powerful words. And again, you know, the commitments from all the other from all the partners and the governments and the donors, it's really, truly amazing to be hearing those commitments. So before we hear from our esteemed guest, I want to highlight the critical role health providers play in the fight against FGM. A trusted professionals within communities, they are often the first point of contact for girls and families affected by this harmful practice. Before I introduce this next, I want to share an experience where my daughter today is not cut because it really was a health professional that stepped in and ensured she was safe and I was taken care of. So really, it's a reminder the importance of healthcare professionals and the really critical role they play. So today we are very fortunate to have with us Catherine Mengenyi, a Kenyan nurse, survivor, a passionate advocate who really embodies the power of health providers in this fight. Catherine has dedicated her life to ending FGM and breaking the cycle. And her story is a very powerful testament to the impact of individuals make. Let's watch Catherine.
My name is Catherine Chacha. I am a survivor of FGM. I am a nurse, a gender activist, and currently coordinating gender-based violence prevention and response in Migori County under the Health Department in Kenya, and I am the lead Women in Global Health Kenya chapter. As a nurse, I work at different levels of care. I have worked at different levels of care offering services, and I have to say that the population that reaches us nurses at different levels, a very big population, and most of them appreciate us and seek advice from us because of what we do. Having studied in an urban population, I remember at the tender age of 12, this is still a memory in my mind where, because of the beliefs and culture in my community about female genital mutilation, I underwent FGM at the age of 12. This is an experience that I've never forgotten. It's still very new. I always see this healthcare provider in a white dust coat, carrying a blade and put on the ground. She's putting on gloves and everybody is trying to make me not to scream, and she had to perform the cut. I screamed, but nobody could hear because we had women who were holding my mouth and trying to make me not to speak out. So as a healthcare worker in a community, I have learned the art of, from the trauma that I underwent, how do I use my voice to speak out and end female genital mutilation? And having a platform of at different levels, how do I speak out and use my voice to end this and tell the healthcare workers how they can do it? Healthcare workers, as part of the people who undergo FGM, because they come from the community, they can be survivors or they can be perpetrators. So we need to have the voice of healthcare providers in ending female genital mutilation. World Health Organization has developed a new approach of person-centered communication for prevention of FGM, which starts with the personal reflections of individuals. As healthcare workers, whether nurses, doctors, clinical officers, or any other, how do we reflect among ourselves as agents of change or of ending FGM? And this starts very clearly in, when we get an opportunity, do we plant the seed of ending FGM? As we get clients, we get patients coming to the health facilities at all levels of care, be it antenatally, when the mothers are pregnant, during delivery, and outpatient services. Do we plant the seed of hope? How do we break the cycle? How do we start the conversation after we've changed our own values on FGM? How do we embrace the community to change their values? I imagine the number of women I have encountered for the last 18 years. If I had the conversation of ending FGM or planting the seed, I would have reached very big population and reduced the trauma, physical or psychological trauma on FGM. It is important for us to engage healthcare workers, especially nurses and midwives who are at all levels of care, to break the cycle and end FGM. And I am a witness. I have broken the cycle where my two girls, 16 and 14, are not cut currently, and I've been able to save more than 200 girls from the cut through a conversation of how do we break the cycles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing your story. It inspires us all to forge a stronger ties and work across sectors to end FGM. We must certainly engage communities and spread awareness about the harmful practice of FGM. Thank you so much for all the work you have been doing. I'm always very honored when I see survivors who are really at the forefront, who are also the experts in these spaces. So thank you so much, Catherine. And to all of you, please, again, I want to keep reminding us this, please show your support to the FGM survivors by using the hashtag Her Voice Matters. Unfortunately, one of our speakers, Ms. Kediatou Diallo from Guinea, is unable to join us through connection issues. I mean, these are some of the issues sometimes we face in these, and it's really important to that we pay attention to that too. But we support her courageous efforts in Guinea in trying to make the change and trying to end female genital mutilation. Now, we tune into the feel of good music, listen to the words of three powerful feminists and activists from the Gambia. Their names are Praise Gimba, Awa Bling, and Mariam Chum, sharing their song Can't No More. I hope you are energized as we go on the final closing section for today. Thank you. Let's see this song.
Mususu no nyantabane ayechamale niyo samba ijuso kanabamba po ayefutuo nidiatinya mane adatulo yo wahmalumnar kon paka iklan seti naror muchel chikeni chili daf ñu war Tequila at the back, no what below them. Welcome what you dara. FGM, the forward end of a what a jet.
free, so let me be free to feel. I came complete, so let me live my life to the fullest. I need no chains to bound my sensations. I deserve to have it all. Cause no more pain, no more crying, no more bleeding. Cause no more trauma. Say no more, I deserve to have it all.
Cause FGM ends with me. Then you feel put joke hairly, lun songa dan, mbolo moy dole, adak chosan waruta lore, bull talk, so gise kukoy def nanko bole, yermande way buko togn daki halela, yo buko yo bundak fumuy mbuje moy suma yegon, bu magge be ragné na linko defon du yon, dina la mere trauma munna tax mu tagok sa go.
Wow. Oh, wow. I think just I don't know about you guys, but I'm having goosebumps just hearing the words and just really seeing the power of, especially when women come together and using creativity as a way of really just sharing this message. So thank you so much for that song. I think it's important. I will actually encourage us all to share the poem, all the videos you've seen today. Please share that widely, because it's really important that we share these messages. So our final speaker for the day, Nankali Maksud, Senior Advisor, Prevention of Harmful Practices at UNICEF. Nankali, over to you. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Leila. Also taking goosebumps as well, just like you. It was amazing to see that, and really great to see young people using the power of art to be able to communicate to us. It's been such an amazing session. Thank you so much, Leila, yourself for your leadership throughout and shepherding us so well. I'd like to just begin by acknowledging the show of solidarity, the force and the voices of brave survivors who've joined onto the call today. And I really liked, Leila, that you're actually calling people to carry on sharing, the videos, the messages that have come out today, because I think today marks an excellent day, but our job is not just today, it's to kind of keep taking it forward beyond today. During the course of today, it's just been amazing. I'm particularly recalling the poem by Justine Kahenda. She said, not everything we inherit is a gift to be passed on. And it's such a deep reflection for us, because amongst the many community members that we go out and speak to, work with, they keep talking about that belief that we must, kind of inherit some of these gifts. And maybe some of them are things that we need to reflect from. We have to be able to not pass on FGM if we are going to be able to achieve the global goals, by 2030. I also want to acknowledge and thank, the executive directors for UNICEF, UNFPA, WHO, UN Women, OHCHR. It's been amazing to be able to have, leadership at that level to show that the commitment for the UN system across board is one that is very committed towards elimination of FGM. The member states, of course, who will remain, leaders of this, the many different partners from civil society who joined online and took the time to develop video messages. We thank you sincerely. Member states, particularly Sweden, USA, Burkina, Djibouti, Nigeria, Kenya, the Gambia, Guinea. I mean, the list goes on. It's just been amazing to be able to see all of them come together with one clear message that this practice just simply must stop. Acknowledge and thanks for the courageous testimonies and for the meaningful roles they continue to play in their communities, such as building social groupings, movements, creating linkages, and brokering services for girls. One thing that really struck me, Leila, during this course is somebody reminded us, I don't know whether it was you or one of the different speakers, about the importance of safeguarding. And so I really want to say, thank you for those who've been, who've trusted us to be able to share their story. But as they do that, we recognize the, the impact of sharing that story on them and serve as carers, for them as we go out into the communities. I also recall, the words of the UNICEF Executive Director, that survivors know their communities well. They bring authenticity, the ability to dispel myths and misconceptions, and they're powerful advocates to empower lives, including through education. And we've seen that today. For those of us who work within this space, we continue to see it. And I call on survivors to carry on, to be that, authentic voice that really understands what we're talking about here. And can be such a strong voice in terms of eliminating FGM. Finishing off, Leila, want to reiterate kind of key messages. We want to, as we walk away today and we think about what we want to carry on to invest in when we go back to communities, when we work, at a global level, we want to continue to elevate survivors' voices as a must to ending FGM. We want to invest in FGM survivor-led movements as a way to ending FGM. We want to continue to prioritize the services for survivors. And, again, because of people also bringing up the issues of safeguarding. And we want to continue to increase the power and the agency for survivors as we go on. As a joint program, our commitment to working to survivor-led movements will be highlighted. As of 2023, UNFPA and UNICEF, through the joint program, supported more than 11,000 organizations, of which 83% were grassroots organizations, partnering with coalitions and survivor-led movements. I hope you see that we're not just talking, but we are walking the talk as well. So on behalf of UNFPA and UNICEF, I thank everybody for making the time. It's been amazing. I leave with such strong messages as we go off into our day. Some of you, of course, are closing the day. Thank you for honoring us. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for sharing your voice. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to continuing this long battle that still must go on out there. Thanks so much, Leila, and back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalia, for your powerful words, and a great way really to end this very powerful webinar we've had today. We have heard compelling and insightful statements, new commitments, and memorable stories, which demonstrate strong leadership on the ground and higher up. Together eliminating female genital mutilation by 2030. As we mark the 2024 International Day of Zero Tolerance of Ending Female Genital Mutilation, we call on you participating and reached by an event to take an action now and join the fight to eliminate female genital mutilation. Before I say my last words, for me, what really came up really strongly from this webinar today, it's really important to really create a healing, space of healing, justice, and using creativity. And I really felt that from this webinar today. And very, very strongly what came across over and over again, the importance that survivors are always on the table. We need to be at the decision table. So I want to thank you to the UN Joint Program for having me here today in moderating this webinar. And finally, I think one key message that keeps coming up, it's collective investment. We want to thank everyone for your strong participation. We look forward to your continued senior engagement today and this whole year. A lot of us, this is our work every day. So please don't forget to use the hashtag #HerVoiceMatters. Thank you for being with us and have a pleasant day. I would like to encourage you to do something lovely for yourselves today, because this is not an easy work that we're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Leila Hussein, and thank you for giving me the honor to host you and look after you. Thank you all so much.